the mental parasites and the physical parasites, they go hand in hand. So we're being eaten alive in the moment by these ideas and these beings, right, that are creations of our own that we could detox from if we know how to get into that sacred space and get in that flow state and let that butterfly, come out of that cocoon.
Peace and riches blessings. I am Michael B. Beckwith, the host of Take Back Your Mind. Peace and blessings, everyone. Welcome to Take Back Your Mind podcast. In a moment, we're going to be in a lively conversation with Doctah B Sirius, great, wonderful healer, great being. But before I introduce you to Doctah B Sirius, we have a life question of the week. This is Kim. Kim says, I understand the entire vibrational frequency matching your experiences theory. But I've always wondered this. If Jesus Christ really lived and was really crucified, then how could that happen? If he was so high vibrational, how could he end up suffering so much on the cross? Is it because he chose to do that to show people how much one could rise from a low place? Thank you for your insight. I appreciate the fact that you understand about vibration and that your stabilized vibration and perception does determine experience. First, you want to know if Jesus Christ lived. His name was Yeshua ben Joseph. Christ is a title, it's not a last name. So it was Jesus the Christ. That wasn't what they called him because J was not in that particular alphabet. His name was Yeshua ben Joseph. According to kinesiological studies and other archaeological studies, he did live. According to kinesiological studies by David Hawkins, he vibrated at 1,000, which is the highest you can vibrate in a human form. So he was an enlightened being. The lost years of Jesus, some research shows that he lived after the age of 12 in Egypt for a while, then he lived in India, and then he came back to the Middle East. Now, there's a teaching about Jesus, and the teachings of Jesus. Teachings about Jesus is for traditional Christianity. It just teaches about Jesus and worshiping Jesus and that type of thing. The teachings of Jesus are individuals who actually take the teachings and seek to live them and practice those particular teachings. Now, in the metaphorical and real life of Jesus, there's a tremendous amount of attention placed on crucifixion often, particularly in the traditional Christian religions. So we could say that he is a personification of not what happens to you, but how you deal with it. And so when you read the Aramaic version of the Bible, which is closer to the real language of Jesus, he spoke Aramaic, and the real meaning of a lot of the scriptures, he doesn't deal with a lot of suffering. He says, in substance, for this purpose was I born. I think it's misinterpreted in the King James Version to say something like, it has something to do with suffering. I can't remember the language right now. But for this purpose was I born was more of an accurate description, so that he, on the cross, was practicing his spiritual teachings and ultimately revealed his resurrection, his aliveness. I'm still here. And he went on to, according to wonderful research, that he went on to live many years. So there's too much emphasis placed on crucifixion. Crucifixion means the crossing out of the human. We all go through crucifixions. We all end up crossing out that which no longer serves us to rise to a higher frequency. So you take his template and you study the teachings and you rise to higher frequency regardless of the challenge. I hope that assists. Thank you, Kim. If you're seeking spiritual insight on life events, world events, your own growth, development, and unfoldment, or whatever you feel you want to ask me, email me at podcast@michaelbeckwith.com. State where you are from and your first name. And as you are picked, I will do my best to answer your question. Have a beautiful day. Peace and blessings, everyone. As I mentioned earlier, I have Doctah B Sirius with me today on Take Back Your Mind. And he's a powerful being that's done so much to help people not only navigate through this world, but to actually take back their mind so that it becomes a coherent instrument for that which is real and true, and not just caught up in other people's agendas, other realities that are being proffered, status quoisms. He is a magnificent healer in so many respects. We break down his bio for you for just a moment. He's a leading mind, body, and spirit medicine man, certified doctor of metaphysics, natural remedy formulator. I know this because I take his stuff. Wellness educator and vibrational healing music pioneer, with clients spanning across 6 continents who trust him with their physical, emotional, mental, and holistic well-being. Born into a long line of healers, counselors, and teachers with roots in ancient America, Africa, and India, Doctah B continues this long family tradition as a master herbalist, entrenched in natural healing and higher consciousness. He chooses powerful botanicals that are being grown in nutrient-dense lands. Doctah B says by addressing the root cause of our imbalances and deficiencies, we create a way of living that promotes not only physical health, but births an energetic shift to help optimize our true potential as vibrant beings on the planet. So you just heard me read this magnificent bio from Doctah B, who's a colleague and a friend. Doctah B, welcome to Take Back Your Mind, first of all.
Glad to be here, man. I'm honored. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
I know we've done interviews before on my radio program I used to have and my IG Lives, but this is a new format, and I want to introduce you to a number of new people that are coming on to this Take Back Your Mind podcast. Tell individuals a little bit about your personal story and how you grew to become the being that you are. Now, obviously, I read your bio. Obviously, I know you have elevation. You know, you have magnificent herbal formulas. You help people in so many areas. But what was your course of heart that made you become who you are?
Well, I started out in music because I loved music, because I knew music was like the food of the universe, and everything vibrated and had frequency. And as a child, I just wanted to play music. And I got deep into the music business. I became, actually in music as a percussionist. And later on, I got in the music business and became a very successful record producer, engineer, all of that stuff. And I had a lot of awards and things. But what happened was I realized I was in a very stressful industry. And it wasn't about me. There was these relationships were very transactional. Even though they say, "Hey, I love you, man," I mean, I love you while you're in here recording this record. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But I realized at some point after, having the money and all those things, that wasn't it. I wasn't happy, and I wasn't liking the way things were being, issued out, and the way things were being dealt with in the music industry. And I was like, this is not it for me. This is not what I got into this for. So I began to get sick. It was really interesting because I was offered some of the biggest deals ever. 6-figure deals. I mean, were like on the table, but I wasn't well. And I was, I couldn't, after a while, I couldn't walk up steps or walk halfway up the steps, and I would stop breathing, and I'm wheezing, and I had gained a whole lot of weight. And I had what they call Raynaud's syndrome, when you can't get circulation in your hands. And I'd go to sleep at night and stop breathing. I would totally stop breathing. And I knew something was serious. And I went to the doctor, and he sent me to another doctor who sent me to a doctor who sent me to a doctor. And they all came back and they said, "Hey, listen, you've got a very serious autoimmune system disorder, and everything in your body is fighting you. It's like there's a war going on within you." And, as soon as they said this, it clicked to me. I was at war with myself because I was involved with something that I started out to be, as fun, as beauty, and something that I really loved. And it got into this strict business. And I was stressed out. I was stressed out the way they treated artists, the way they treated me. What they were calling a royalty was actually just a little piece of dust after everybody else ate off the table.
Right.
And, I decided that I couldn't do this anymore. So I basically, after the doctors that said there was no cure, I just walked away from the whole music industry, threw my phone into the ocean out there in Cali. And that was it, man. And I just sat for a while and something came to me. Because, when you get quiet, the message comes. And there was a message coming and it said nature. I just kept hearing nature. So I would go out and walk in nature, sit in the grass, as well as I could. And I was basically, I had given up. So I was ready to just check out. But sometimes when you give up, that's when the answer comes.
Right.
So I something said, go study health, go study natural health. And I began to study herbs. And after a while, the trees began to talk to me. I could feel the rhythm of certain plants. I just knew that there was something here. And I studied everything I could about natural health. That was back in the day when they had VHS tapes.
Right.
I had tapes piled up. I'm going to lectures, I'm workshop. Remember the Bodhi tree,
Of course. I
used
I went to the Bodhi tree when it was one room and it was sawdust
me
on the
too.
floor.
Yes.
And all the way until it became big. And what's interesting is they had those pictures of all the spiritual teachers on the wall.
Yes.
I finally made the wall right before they closed. I made the wall, and then the Bodhi tree got sold. the building. Sold. Yeah.
Yes, I lived at the Bodhi tree for about 6 months. I had those little stools. I went and got a little bedroll and everything. And I'd be there every day, man, just reading books about health and metaphysics. And after about a year of studying and changing the way I ate, I felt different. My whole body changed, my skin changed, my hair changed, the way I thought changed. And I began to get happy again, and I felt joy. I could feel my blood rushing through my veins. And it was like, yes, this is it. And it was interesting because I saw some people who were speaking, who had a show on Stevie Wonder's radio station out there. Mm-hmm. And they were like, man, you look like a totally different person, because they knew me from the music business. Right, what are you doing? I said, well, I'm into this health thing. I got into metaphysics. I got into herbalism. And they said, wait a minute, you went from music to natural health? I said, well, I didn't leave music. I just went into something a little different that I could have more control over. And basically, they asked me to do an interview on this show that came on every morning. And I talked about my story. And man, everything blew up from that point, because I changed my life. I went through a transformation. It was like the caterpillar going into the cocoon, and those imaginal cells woke up the butterfly. Right. From that point on, I was in full control, and I went wherever I could and helped to please people wherever I could with the knowledge about health and well-being and keeping your mind focused and taking back your mind, like as your show is totally, really, as your show is a title that's beautiful. But we give up our minds sometimes for our business, for our love lives and family. And when you take back yourself, everything changes. And that's exactly what I had to do. I had to take back my original self. And everything changed from that point. I became Doctah B Sirius.
Right. And so many people are very grateful about that change that happened for you, because you've been instrumental in so many people's great changes, not just going through changes, but actual transformation. Now, tell me two other things. One, you come from a long line of healers. And two, you spell your name D-O-C-T-A-H, Doctah. So tell me about the long line of healers that you come from. And then where did that spelling of that name come from?
Well, I didn't know until almost recently, actually. I was talking to one of my uncles, and he says, you think that you started this whole healing thing in the family. He says, your grandfather was into herbs, your great-grandfather, everybody along your family line was in natural health. I mean, this is all we had back in the day. So we knew what to pick. We used to boil this plant and cook that plant. So we've been into this for a long time. But it's interesting. My grandmother's great-grandfather was from India. And he was what they now call a Dalit, one of the little people. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? And he was blue-black, and he got caught in the slave trade some kind of way. And he ends up here on a plantation. They take off his turban, his diadem, and his hair goes all the way down to his ankles. I mean, to his knees. And they're like, well, this guy's different. So they cut his hair, gave him a European hairdo, brought him in the big house, and taught him to read. So he's reading all the information, and he would sneak down into the slave quarters and teach everybody on the plantation to read. and how to use herbs, because he was a natural herbalist. He was into Ayurvedic medicine, from way back. In fact, there's a graveyard here in Georgia. I found out they have a whole shrine to my great grandfather from India. So on both sides of my family, everybody's teachers or some type of healer. Naturally, they have natural abilities. My mother had natural abilities. She was a reader. They called her like an oracle, because everybody came to her to transform or tell them, read their dreams and things like that. She'd help people hit the lottery. So yeah, but a lot. There's a lot, man. The history is deep, and I'm just now starting to write it down, and soon there'll be a book about it.
So so a lot of your work is probably intuitively being led by your ancestral line that's loaded and coded within your cells. So your studying was like an activation of a mystic cord of memory that was already there, and you living it out.
One of my teachers and guides, and also I was his herbalist, was Dick Gregory.
Yeah.
And Baba Dick Gregory told me one day, he says, Dr. B, he says, you can't learn anything you don't already know.
Right.
He says, the only way you could actually say, yes, I get it, is if it was already in you. It just needed to be opened and activated. Right. So yeah, there's a lot of us have this, but you have so much distraction in the world, and you're being forced to do this and do this career and do that and go over here. You're not really following that inner heartbeat, that inner rhythm, that heart math. You're not following, what the cosmic message that's coming through a lot of times, because you're following what they say is right. So I began to follow, what was right for me, and, have the aspiration to help other people.
Absolutely. Now, where did you get doctor from? D-O-T-H-A-H. Doctah B Sirius, the whole thing.
Well, in music, they used to call me Doc B, because I used to come in and do the editing and fix your track, and you know what I'm saying, make your music really sound good. So they started calling me Doc,
yeah.
You see, so I was already kind of like Doc, Doc B, because my original last name began with a B, and my father, they called him Brother B, and my uncle's favorite uncle was Uncle B, and my favorite aunt was Aunt B. There was a lot of B's, and plus I got stung by like 100 bees when I was really young, and I got a real close connection with bees. I still do to this day. We're like, they stung me to life.
There's a recent documentary that shows that these individuals that work with bees, longevity is like way beyond the average amount of people that live. They're there working with bees. They're getting stung from time to time, but being in that atmosphere of bees, they have a tendency to live longer for some reason.
Well, that's because the bees, they naturally resonate. Their sound resonates to 528.
Yeah,
which is the frequency that heals DNA.
Right.
And it helps the heart beat correctly. So the bees are actually being there to help us be what we came to be. But we're afraid of the bees. But those bee stings, they're giving you a certain venom, which is a medicine. They even have people now who go to get the bee stings. My mother, who had MS.
Oh, that's right. That's right. I know some people who got healed of something. You get me to talk about MS. I forgot what this woman had, but she went over and got the bees, a little sting here and there, and she's doing great.
Yeah. Well, my mother wanted to get the bee stings, but her doctors they got upset. They were like going off on her. You can't get it, you'll die, and blah, 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 blah. But before she transitioned, she wanted to get those bees. And she said, I got to get those bees. And she says, Dr. B, you're the bee man. Where's the bees? So anyway.
But don't you think it's interesting that the fact that without bees, humanity's gone.
Done.
But we're polluting the environment so much that we're killing the bees.
Is that something?
We're like committing mass suicide by all these pesticides and all the environmental triggers that we're pulling all across the board. It's an interesting thing what humanity does in its unconscious behavior.
Well, it's interesting because when you play around with the beehive, if you poison or if you do anything to the queen that's out of rhythm, out of sequence with her life, they have what they call colony collapse disorder. The whole colony begins to collapse. Right. But the bees are like, they're the head of our colony here on this planet. And we're seeing colony collapse disorder worldwide because of what they're doing, not just to the bees, but the frogs and everything, But, always, there's always going to be something that rises from the ashes, like the phoenix. So a new rhythm is coming right now.
Yeah, I agree with that. We're going to get into that. Let's talk about a couple of things. I know on your elevationtime.com website, you talk about Subconscious Alignment Modalities. That's one of your offerings. Break that down for me for a moment.
Well, I one day I was doing a lecture and I noticed that the people weren't listening. They would come to laugh because I had jokes and stories about things. And I asked the people 3 questions that were written on this blackboard behind me. I talked for 3 hours about these same 3 questions. And at the end of the night, I said, hey, can you guys tell me what we're talking about? And nobody knew what we were talking about. I said, it's on the board. You're not even here. Nobody was there. So I said, I don't know. I'm talking to people who are half dead, so I quit. And I remember going to my computer, and my son was like 2 years old. I sat him on my desk and I said, what am I going to do on Tuesday nights now? Because I don't see lecturing as being the thing to do because people are asleep. And my son's sitting there and I'm on some website and my son hits the computer, I guess, almost by mistake. I guess there's no mistakes.
Almost.
But the page jumps to Dr. Bruce Lipton.
Ah, my boy.
And the book flashes. It's Biology of Belief. I'm like, what the heck is this? I started looking up everything on him and I ended up calling him. And I talked to him for like a brief minute. And he says, well, look, I got to go, but I'm going to put my wife on. He puts his wife on. And at the time, my partner, she starts talking to the wife. They're talking for hours. I'm studying everything on, this thing about the DNA and how the DNA, the genes they're like pants. You got to put them on. You know what I'm saying? And they're not carrying what you think. They're not controlling your life. It's the environment. So I got deeply interested in that. And I talked to him one other time and he says, listen, maybe you should check out this course, called Psyche, Psychological Kinesiology, and go check these guys out. So I went down to Orange County and I took this course and I was blown away by the information. And it was interesting because most of the people in the class were like in marketing. It was all about marketing, taking your marketing, to becoming the peak performer in marketing. I was like, no, we can take this to natural health. People knew how to reprogram their subconscious and get in what they call a whole brain state. You could change anything.
Right.
So I got into that really deeply. In fact, one of the first places I started doing the subconscious alignment was at Agape.
Yeah.
And I had the tent outside.
Yeah, I remember.
Sure. I was doing the technique in there, So, that changed everything. And I realized that a lot of people are unwell, not just because of what they're eating and what they're drinking, but what they're thinking.
Yes.
And that program that says that they are something and they can't change that because, it runs in the family. I'm like, well, when did it start running? Maybe we could slow it down to a jog and maybe at some point.
Let it run away.
Let it run away, Because, when they told me that all this stuff runs in the family, I said, well, my grandmother and grandfather, because a lot of people in my family had cancer. I said, well, my grandmother and grandfather never had cancer. So when did it start running in the family? I don't get it. But, learning all that stuff and studying the works of Dr. Bruce Lipton, and, it just changed everything. And I got deep into doing the subconscious alignment work where you can cause, the quantum shifts in a person's consciousness in minutes. It really works. It's really powerful. But that's where a lot of the illness comes from. A lot of illness starts in the mind, in the emotion. You know what I'm saying? And people have a certain feeling about things and they create it and they don't even realize it because they believe it's supposed to be, the way they are. When you get 60, this is what's going to happen. When you get 80, this is going to, people catch this, you catch that. And all these concepts are based on a very Newtonian, you know what I'm saying?
It's a very linear, very Newtonian, and it's cause and effect. And it doesn't hold water in the quantum field, so to speak. It's not,
yes.
I like to say that we're living in what is called the age of agency. We've gone beyond biological and DNA determinism. We're not in that age anymore. We actually are in the age of agency where we get to determine our own destiny.
Yes.
Not based on DNA, not based on hereditary patterns, not based on circumstances. And what you're doing by going into the subconscious, which is running everybody's life, you're going into then having them become in alignment with reality.
Yes.
What's possible. And you're setting so many people free with that. Now you have another one called relationship subconscious alignment. Is that what do you do with that? And how do people they come into you and they have an issue with their relationships or something to that effect, and you pull out the subconscious blocks to intimacy or love or self-love? Is that what's going on there?
Well, a lot of times we find out that people are not even technically in love. They're in like a lot. They like each other a lot until there's drama. Then they hate each other, But the two people that met are not even the original people. You know what I'm saying?
I like this. I like that. That's true.
This is you didn't meet as original people. And a lot of what you just did so you could have this relating. You know what I'm saying? But you didn't get down to the root of it. So what we've got to do is uncover all the belief systems and all the programming, which is usually from the past. Because people are very intelligent. But see, intelligence is information from the past. Very, very seldom are people living in this particular moment. So when you start asking them questions, even about a relationship, they're all recanting the past. That's true. And as you know, we can't fix the past. You see what I'm saying? The future is a mystery, but right now is what's really happening. So what we have to do is find out where each of the individuals really are. What would they really like? And here's an interesting thing. I would ask every client that sat down on my couch, what would they like? And they would go on and on. I don't want to be lonely. I don't want to be hurt. I don't want to have cancer. And I said, whoa, what would you like? You're telling me what you in no way would like.
That's right.
Can you tell me what you would like? What is the goal? What is the destination? Where would you like to be? Do you know it would take sometimes 2 hours or even 2 sessions to get them to actually be able to say and speak and utter what it is they actually would like in life? And sometimes they would say, I want a lot of money. Well, what are you going to do with the money? Oh, you're just going to save the money? No. But when we get into the place of, being in the place of you'd like to travel from beach to beach and just watch the sunset, what would that feel like? And here's the interesting thing. Most of the modalities that I've studied, and I've studied a lot of them, right, throughout my life, they start talking about visualizing something. And I realized something. People don't have good vision because their mind has been photoshopped since day one, since Mickey Mouse and all the rest of that. What you think you're seeing is not what you're seeing.
It's been hijacked.
It's been hijacked. It's been, you got walk-ins in your eyes. You know what I'm saying? So I started getting into the feeling. I said, what would it feel like to be in the place of your desire? That's when it gets deep. If you could feel as if you're there and then wave cast that energy into the quantum field as waves, after a while, the quantum field is going to what? It's going to what? Solidify those particles into actual things. So if your language is about what you do not desire, if you're looking at things and you're looking at it from a past tense, you see, and you're not getting into what you would like, you can't create anything. You've got to go into the darkness. You've got to go into the unknown. And that's the place a lot of people are scared to go into the unknown. I said, well, look, if you got all these problems in your relationship and in your life and in your health, and you know what's going on right now, seems like that should be what should scare you. The unknown is where the answers are. So let's go into the unknown.
That's why I said unknown is where the goodies are.
This is where the goodies are.
Because you're speaking my language, obviously, because the ego only can control the present identity. It's protecting your present identity. And if you're identified with all that stuff in your past, and as soon as you try to move out of there, the ego sets up roadblocks to try to keep you small and in that package. But the goodies are in the unknown. Now, in terms of relationships, I hear you loud and clear, because what happens is people, they'll meet maybe in a honeymoon state, but then after a while, the old selves, the past self emerges. Yes. And you have, you know what I call it? I call it the friction of fictions. You have the friction of these fictional characters.
Yes.
Living from their past, the misinterpretation of their past, the unhealed aspect of their past. Those are fictional characters. They don't really exist in the mind of God. Those are just made up characters. It's just like Mickey Mouse is made up, Yes. But those two fictional characters meet and they fight and they vie for power and they want the other person to make them happy, Yes. But they're just fictional. And when you're going into the subconscious and beginning to transmute those fictional characters and their thoughts and beliefs and superstitions, then the real individual can emerge.
Yes.
The one that's untouched by time and experience. Now you got a relationship.
Yes.
A ship that can carry you into relating in the higher frequencies. So you still do this work?
Well, I do it now. I teach it and I do, I'll do groups, audiences, but doing one-on-one, it got to the point where my subconscious, because, your subconscious can't perceive or conceive of anything outside of self. So if you keep hearing about these problems, at some point it seeps in and now you start having problems too, which is why I realize a lot of doctors get sick because they're hearing these problems all day long and it seeps in. So I no longer do that. But I realized something, man. I realized that, my specialty in health, I realized that parasites
Oh, yes.
were one of the number one causes of illness on the planet.
Right.
Even like cancer, they're now saying it's basically parasites and toxins, right?
Right. It's a lot of the toxicity produced by the parasites. Absolutely.
So, as you know, I created that cleanse, the elevated total body program, which is a 28-day program, which helps you detox from the superbugs, not just the regular parasites, but what they call systemic parasites.
Right.
But then I began to realize there was another group of parasites that no one was looking at. Those are the emotional parasites. Those are parasites of your mind, mental parasites. And these beings that have been created in your mind actually become real beings because you have a relationship with these ideas, right? And they
take on a life of their own, fueled by us.
You see, these are ghosts. This is like the average person is haunted by what? Hungry ghosts. Isn't that the same? The hungry ghosts, these things should be dead and gone, but they're alive. So the mental parasite, that's a whole nother thing. By you believing that what happened in the past is going to happen again, when technically we now know history never repeats itself, ever. Nothing in nature repeats itself, but you could be repeating yourself. I mean, even in relationships, people go meet the person that looks like the person they just broke up with. He looks just like Harry. Oh my God, I really like him. Well, he acts like Harry too in 6 months when the subconscious comes back online. Because like you said, everybody's on best behavior at first.
Right.
So the mental parasites and the physical parasites, they go hand in hand. So we're being eaten alive in the moment by these ideas and these beings, right? That are creations of our own that we could detox from if we know how to get into that sacred space and get in that flow state and let that butterfly come out of that cocoon.
Right. And there's a couple of things that you're bringing up in my mind right now in terms of this parasite cleanse. The solstice, these are good times to start cleanses, right?
Well, that is the time when we traditionally changed our diet, ate certain foods whenever the sun was in certain positions.
Right.
So that solstice, when that sun hits that high point, it begins to recharge our solar plexus. You see, that's the solstice that
started June 21st.
That starts June 21st, exactly. On the June 21st, when that's hit, everything changed. Then another event 13 days after that, or between the 3rd and the 9th of July, Sirius, the sun, and the earth are in perfect alignment. So Sirius, our spiritual sun, right? That's where our sun gets its message, from Sirius, and our sun spirals around Sirius. Sirius' energy hits the sun and it super illuminates the sun. There's all this electrical energy that happens, and then that hits the earth. This is between the 3rd and the 9th of July every year, right? This alignment changes everything. And guess what it does? It helps you become independent. That's why it's really weird how all the major independence days are between the 3rd and the 9th of July. When they say, when Washington, won the war, they were in the Potomac River and it was frozen. They were frozen, right? Well, how did it get to summer all of a sudden when you have the holiday? Well, they're using the alignment. And even Washington, D.C. and all that is aligned basically where on the 4th of July, Sirius sits right on the top of the Washington Monument.
They copied the what they were doing in Egypt, Kemet.
Yes, they did.
Yeah,
and that's what
in terms of that kind of alignment with the stars. Yeah,
but you are part of this alignment too, because that energy is going to come straight to the top of your head, through your core, through your chakra system, right into your solar plexus. So that's your inner sun. That's the largest bundle of nerves in your body. That changes everything. Now, let's say because it's like charging a battery. Okay, your batteries are being charged, but you're living life in this disagreeable mode. You're fearful, you're angry, you're hurtful, you're remorseful, you're just living in guilt. All the disagreeable stuff is online. The only thing the battery is going to do is charge that stuff up. So you're going to have more of it. So the summertime, through what they call the Lion's Gate, which is all the way up until 888, you know what I'm saying, on the calendar, people they feel, even though it's hot, they're not really living the life they came to live because they haven't broken the bond between all the disagreeable things from their past. Now, if you start looking at the solstice and go into this Sirius alignment, which is between the 3rd and the 9th of July, and get free, clear everything. It's like clear the slate. You can become independent from your old self, independent from your past thinking, independent from the mental, spiritual, and the parasites of your mind, just by going into states of meditation and clearing. You know what I'm saying? Getting in a silent place and just being quiet. But what do they do on the 4th of July? They've got rockets, noises and bombs. And somebody said, well, that's purposeful because it keeps people from actually receiving all the energy from the stars. Well, actually, you can't stop the star energy, but you can be, confused, and you could be in a state of illusion and delusion.
Or disinterested and not paying attention. You pay attention to the wrong stuff. Yeah.
Mass distraction.
Yeah.
But by aligning yourself between this time and, between the solstice and that time in July, everything changes. So when July, is happening all the way through August, you are supercharged with whatever it is you'd like to do. We're at the opposite of winter. The trees are expressing themselves. Everything in nature is expressing itself at its highest level. So we have to learn to express ourselves at our highest level, detoxify our mind mentally, physically, and spiritually. And guess what? Everything opens up. Absolutely. Everything begins to open up, and it's like a roller coaster ride, man. But you've got to have your intentions right. You got to know, what are your goals? A lot of people don't know what their goal is. That's why when I ask them, what would they like? They don't know. They have no idea.
I found that all the time too, man. People could give me an hour of what they don't want and couldn't give me 10 minutes of what they do want.
Exactly.
I tell them, listen, you don't get what you want or don't want. You get what you're interested in. And most people are interested in what they don't want. So the
exactly.
law, like you just said, the law fires up what they don't want because that's where their interest is. I don't want to be like my parents. I don't want to do this. I don't want to have this done. I don't want, the energy just fires up that interest, but you have to be able to articulate your heart's desire.
Yes.
And then you have to realize your heart's desire and God's will is the same thing.
Exactly.
You don't have to beg God for anything. It's already within you. You got to set it free. So listen, at this time in July, what would you say is the number one or two things that people should be doing right now to actually gain that inner independence?
I would say first is, watch what you're putting in your body. Watch what you're eating, because see, the gut, that's where the friendly bacteria is. And the friendly bacteria, they're picking up information from the cosmos.
Yeah.
Those are like alien beings, man, that are guiding you towards your goals. Now, if you're eating junk food, trash food, if you're eating all this garbage and food dyes and, things that actually cause your body to be confused and kills off a lot of the friendly bacteria, then you can't get a good gut message. See, the gut feeling is everything. That's star energy. A lot of people make the choice and the gut tells them don't do it. But then the person begins to talk to them and they keep sending them flowers and took them out for the lobster dinner and picked them up in a nice car they thought wasn't a rental. You know what I'm saying? They had the hair, everything was in perfect place, But what happens is that, the gut tells you almost every single time, if your gut is clear, if your gut is clean, if you're eating food that doesn't eat you. See, the average person is eating food that eats them.
Right.
They don't realize it. They don't realize that, what you just ate, you can't even digest for 3-4 days.
Yeah.
You see? So fruit would be really good, like watermelons, things like that during the summer, things that are cooling.
H3O3 is what they call.
Oh, yes.
H3O3, that's what's in our body. It's not H2, it's H3O3, but closest thing to that is fruit.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Because see, those type of, those are mono. See, when you eat fruit, those are monosaccharides. Yeah. Your body knows exactly what to do with a monosaccharide. Now, polysaccharides is when you eat all this other stuff, and the body's got to say, well, wait a minute, we got to figure out what is this? What is that? They just ate fruit along with a piece of meat. They just ate some gluten, a ton of glue. We don't know what's happening. Slow everything down. So everything slows down, and you're really at a place where you can't be clear. You can't be sure about your gut feelings because your gut is toxic. So I would say summertime, go with as much fruit as possible and eat fruit totally by itself and drink a lot of water. At least put lemon in it or something like that so that you can actually hydrate yourself. Because, it's interesting. A lot of people are drinking these sugary drinks during the summer, but they're not getting hydrated because the body says, we can't take that. It's going to kill us. I mean, this guy's trying to fry us with this carbonic acid. He's drinking carbonic acid. We're breathing out carbon dioxide, and he's drinking carbon dioxide in. He's crazy, So the body is like, what the heck is going on? So we're we're in this fight or flight and struggle, and it's a struggle happening in the body right now for survival during that time. So by freeing up our gut, by eating fresher foods, by laughing, having more fun, more joy and more love, pure love, all of a sudden our body says, yes, this is what we desire. Let's clean up the DNA. Let's clean up the toxins, but go with the simple sugars that are in fruits. And that right there alone can change your life. Whenever I'm in the Caribbean, that's all I eat is fruit.
Yeah.
You don't
I remember
need
as a kid, I still get it today. When I was a kid, me and my boys, when it hit summertime, we'd be so happy because there'd be fruit everywhere.
Yes.
Peaches, plums, watermelon, cantaloupe, honeydew.
Yes.
I mean, now you're at a time where they import that stuff, so it's around a lot. But back then, we ate in season. We ate the fruits that were in season.
Yes.
And all summer we were fruitarians. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And I yesterday, plums and peaches, baby, and a watermelon. It's pretty much all I ate.
Yes.
and my smoothie. I didn't really need a whole bunch of other stuff. But
see, that's important. Excuse me, but that's important that we eat within the season. And you could do that easily by going to the farmers markets.
Right.
Usually they're going to have what's in season, and they got dirt under their nails. So they just picked them. So they really did grow. They weren't hybridized, crossbred, and made from nanoparticles and, all that kind of
GMO stuff.
GMO,
Interesting fun fact. I think it was 2015. Putin made GMO illegal in this country and says that anybody who tries to grow GMO is a terrorist.
Isn't that something?
Isn't there something in Russia? If you go,
in Russia.
And he was talking about, he says Americans are becoming weaker and weaker because they're eating fast foods and GMO stuff, and we're going to become so strong because we're going to eat real food. I mean, this is the Russian cat spitting knowledge.
Yes. The truth is the truth.
But regardless who's saying it.
But you are what you eat. I mean, what I'm saying? You can't expect to be, to be a God person and you're walking around eating what you might call the devil's food, devil's food cake. You know what I'm saying?
But you're bringing up an interesting statistic and not an interesting fact, and that is over 60% of Americans have at least one chronic disease.
Yes.
That's more than half the nation.
Yes.
It's sick.
I mean, people are eating, gluten is like glue. It's a ton of gluten. You see what I'm saying? People are eating foods that can't be digested. There's a lot of foods now, a lot of these breads and things have plastic in them. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? We're the only country, I think, now that really allows this craziness.
No, you can't even get some of our stuff into other countries. They won't even allow it into the country. The meat, the beef, the milk. They won't. It's not. They say it's not edible. They just sell them to Americans. Americans will drink anything. You know what I mean? They'll drink milk. They'll drink anything. They've been hypnotized so deeply, their mind has been hijacked.
And when they drink that milk, they get that what's it called? Caseomorphate, which is like a morphine type substance.
Yeah.
You're high. You're like the baby. When the baby drinks the mother's milk, you see the way the baby's eyes roll back. So once you can anesthetize the people, you know what I'm saying? Keep them in fear by eating things that were killed in terrible ways. See, by doing that, you can control the people. By people being sickly, people not being able to stand up and be strong and having, pure courage and being, independently wealthy, independently healthy. You can control them, but you can't wait for your government to do this. You have to do it. Each person has the power to take control, especially now. Because now you can go almost everywhere and find vegetarian food, vegan food, healthy choices. You can find a farmer's market almost everywhere, organic. Yeah. You see, you can do that now. So there's no big thing. And living in the season is important, right? But also cleansing and detoxifying the body is important because, see, parasites, right? The physical parasites, they live based on season. So when you go from spring to summer, right? There's certain parasites that only live in the springtime. They go dormant for the summer. Then you got another group that takes over. There's changing of the guards all the time. So, traditionally to stay powerful, we changed and cleansed and detoxified by the season. Now, they didn't call it that. They just called it living because you could only eat certain foods at certain times because you couldn't get, food from 5,000 miles away back in the day. You got what was grown locally. And a lot of times the local food has a vibration in it, which makes that season strong. It's really interesting, like in the fall, all the P foods pop up, foods that begin with P. Just check that out, man. If you just eat the foods that begin with P in the fall, you'll be like incredible. You know, pomegranates, plums, peaches, pumpkins, pumpkin seeds. So all of these things, nature has set up a rhythm for us. And once we get back in touch with rhythm, which lots of people are doing now, lots of people are getting back in touch with the rhythm of nature. And now we're beginning to awaken.
Yeah. You know, interesting talk with you. We can cover so much material. Let's switch for a moment to you had the real science behind the law of attraction, parts 1 and 2. You have that on your website, and summarize that. When you say the real science, I know we're already simpatical about it, but put it in your own words there. The real science behind the law of attraction 1 and 2. What would we summarize that for you folks?
I think what happened was, like when you guys did The Secret, a lot of people got a little lazy. They just felt like they had to think and have a vision board. You know what I'm saying? You know, right. By the way, I've seen some vision boards that was so crazy. It was so much stuff on the board. I don't know. How could this work for you? It's everything. You can't, let's try 1 or 2 things. But people felt they had a vision board and an idea and then do a prayer and a meditation and things would happen. But everybody is always attracting. We're always beautiful. We're always magnetic. Do you understand what I'm saying? Yeah. We're all magnets. We're pulling in everything. But now when you start looking at the reticular activating system, which is the part of the brain, which is a filtering system that says, let's look at what the captain of the ship is moving towards. What would you like? So if you say, I want a green Volkswagen, all you start noticing is green Volkswagen.
Oh, you'll see.
If you say, oh my God, the news is on, the crime is getting worse. Man, crime gets so bad because you're focusing on it. And that's the thing with the mass distraction with the internet. There's so many things to focus on. You can't, unless you're really, very choicey about what you do, and you got to be very discerning, then you're going to be distracted with all this stuff that they say is going on. Now, I remember back in the 60s, it's the same stuff going on now as it was in the 60s. The news is actually the same. The only difference is the players change, the names change, the technology change.
You speak in my language. I've been telling people at Agape for years. I say, try this experiment. Take a newspaper, read it from front to back, everything, opinions, everything, and then put it away and pick it up 6 months later and read the newspaper again. You're going to see the exact same news, except it's going to be different players, and it's going to be shifted a little bit, but it's going to be pretty much the same. Unless we have a real shift, a seismic shift in consciousness, it's just going to repeat, repeat over and over and over again, because the systemic issues haven't changed in all of those particular governing bodies. And the people are just hypnotized. So I'm right with you on that point.
Yes. And what you focus on. So
what would you tell people in terms of, I know what I teach, but I want to hear it from you, in terms of the real law of attraction, the real science of law of attraction 1 and 2. What are some of the affirmative things that people can begin to do? 1,
you have to have a mission. You have to have a first person positive present tense statement of what you'd like. First person is I or I am. Yeah. Right. Present tense, it's got to be something right now. Right. And then it's got to be something that's agreeable or positive that you desire to move towards. So that way you're telling your reticular activating system, which is the physical part of the brain, which is attached to everything, what it is that what a command is the captain giving to the vehicle, the vessel, your ship. Now, the funny thing that I realized about the law of attraction and the reticular activating system, it doesn't kick in unless you're moving towards the thing. You have to take baby steps and walk in that direction. You have to have action. Yeah. You can't just say, I want it, I desire, I'm going to meditate, I'm sitting by the river all day. You want to open this big business, but you haven't done anything. You have to actually take steps every day. So if you're going to start a business, at least maybe go to the office supply place and get some papers and some pencils and, a few things. No, but you're speaking my language, because I always say, very similar, take baby steps. Walk in the direction of your prayer, walk in the direction of your vision. Definitely meditate, definitely develop a coherence around the feeling that it's already happening. It's already happening. Guess what?
if you get coherent around that feeling, it's going to move you to do something.
Yes.
You're going to meet somebody, somebody's going to, something's going to happen that's going to take that feeling into action. And the law of attraction is really, I put it like this. There's a law of attraction, which is what I call a linguistic convenience, because you're really, your magnetism is actually coming from radiation. You're actually radiating something out.
Yes.
So there's attraction that becomes resonance. You're resonating with something, then that becomes radiation. You're actually radiating something. And then as you radiate something, something emerges from the depth of you. You're not getting it. It's already in you.
It's already there.
And so then you're compelled into right action. You just have, that's when you go back to your gut feeling. Your gut says, you know what? Call this guy right now. Why? Why should I ain't talked to this guy in 3 years. Why should I call him? Call him. You call him and it's like, he's working on something that's right in alignment with what you're working on.
Exactly.
You guys need to collaborate.
Yes.
Or your gut will say, go right. Don't go left today. Go right. And you go right and you meet this person that has the next bit of resource for what you're working on. So you've tied all these things together. The gut, if it's clear, you'll get your responses. You cleanse out your parasites, the gut becomes clean. You cleanse out the body temple. You become more of a lightning rod and antenna for that which is good. You have to go into action, but action will come from the gut too. You'll be guided properly. All of this stuff works together for good, but you can't sit on the couch. You can't become a couch potato, eat a bunch of potato chips. You're not going to attract nothing to yourself that way, except for a big gut.
That's right. That's right. And it's interesting because, see, writing is involved. I always tell people to think in ink, write it down. Right. You got to score it because, see, writing is kinesthetic, auditory, and visual.
Absolutely.
So in order to reprogram your subconscious, it's got to be kinesthetic. You got to feel it. It's got to be in the body.
Yeah.
It's got to be auditory. You need to hear, what is it going to sound like as you're sitting at that beach? And then visual. Kinesthetic, auditory, visual experiences is what creates, right, the vibration that creates. And then water is important. Now check this out. What you're drinking, you've got to put that information into the water. So if you have a desire or a goal, just before you drink your water, hold it in your right hand. Yeah. And that water begins to vibrate, with Dr. Emoto, with the messages in water. But also, if you speak it, then the water begins to, the cymatic frequencies of what you're saying coming from your fifth chakra, from your voice, you're charging your water. Then you drink that water. You got 7 different types of oceans in your body, 7 different types of water, and you need water. Now, water helps you move. You see, now you're drinking this water, you've to get the water, you've transcribed your water with this inscription, you've scored it, you're focusing on what you would like to see, hear, and feel, and you're moving towards it. And you got to remember now, opposition always pops up. As you begin to move away from something, gravity becomes stronger. Mm-hmm. So you've got to realize that everything's going to come at you. Yeah. Your friends, I tell people, I say, if you really want to do something, keep it private. Don't tell anybody but the people involved. Don't go rushing off and tell everybody what you're about to do, because they're going to put their own hoodoo on it. Well, you shouldn't do that because your uncle tried the same thing 20 years ago and he lost his shirt, his pants, and his shoestrings. They always got a story for you, which creates fear and doubt. But most of the things that have been created were done because, they created something that was impossible, made it possible by first staying private with it. Right. Keep it to yourself. Don't launch it all on the internet. Tell everybody what you're doing, unless that's part of your marketing. You know what I'm saying? But you have to actually move towards it every day. So I tell people, even if you just do a walking meditation, you go out in your yard and you're picturing and feeling yourself at the place and just walk. And when you put your first foot down, you say release. And then you hit the second step is allow. So you're you're releasing all the things that are not part of your mission into the earth. Mm-hmm. He's going to send a pulse wave back up through your left foot, which is receiving, and it's allow. I tell people, I said, what might be stronger than I am is allow. Mm-hmm. I allow myself.
I say the same thing because allow is feminine.
Yes.
You're available. It's not masculine. It's feminine. And it can, sometimes people will hesitate at I am because part of them doesn't believe it.
He says, no, you're not.
No, you're not. No, you're not. The ego will say, no, you're not. But if you say, no, you're not. I allow this to happen. I let this happen. I'm willing for this to take place. You kind of sneak in on it.
That's right. And, and even, when we're doing the subconscious alignment work, we do muscle testing, kinesiology. So you can test certain words or certain phrases with people to see if they're strong or weak. If they're strong, that means that's affirmative. It's a yes. Yeah. But when you say I am, most people go weak. But when they say I allow, normally they don't go weak. And you know why? Because most people don't use that phrase. It doesn't have any charge connected to it. Yeah. So when you say, I allow myself to be healthy, wealthy, and wise, I allow it. That means all I got to do is open up and let it happen.
Even now.
It's not a lot of work. And, that's another thing. It's hard work to be spiritual. It's going to be work. And, we learned the language of struggle growing up.
Yeah.
Everything they taught us how hard school was going to be. It's going to be hard to get married. It's going to be hard to stay Republican. It's going to be hard to get married and stay married. It was all about hardship. So you were on the boat of struggle. You see? So every time, and your mindset is the temple at which you pray.
Right.
Your mindset, that's like a temple. That's in your head. That's in your temple. So each day you're reaffirming how hard, how tough, and how bad the world is. Right. Once you move away from that, and you begin to move into what you truly desire as if it's already happened, and thinking from the goal. Like you say, don't think of the goal, think from it. You got to be already there. And your mind says, yes, we're there. I'm eating the right foods. I'm detoxifying my body at, not all the time, but when you need to, when the seasons change. I'm drinking good water. I'm moving towards my goals, and I'm being careful with my relating, because a lot of times people will meet somebody, you're at the strugglers convention and you meet somebody, right? You both got a struggling story. You're best friends, and then, because it's a struggle. People love struggle. Struggle loves struggle.
Received your RSVP to the pity party.
You see what I'm saying? So once we get out of that, and turn off the news, turn off all this stuff for a minute, even scrolling through the internet. This is like a disease now. We're thinking, they keep talking about artificial intelligence. I say, well, let me tell you something. Artificial intelligence didn't just come about with computers. You've been receiving artificial intelligence since you've been here. Almost all the stories about history and who you are and what you can do is not real. You have to go inside and discover that for yourself and get out of the blame mode. See, the blame thing also shuts us down. The devil did it. My parents did it. The preacher did it. The blah, blah, blah. No, you have a goal in your life to move towards your desired outcome, but you've got to say, I'm making it happen. It's happening now. And don't get into looking at what other people are doing, because I help a lot of people in business too. So I help people with business development on a metaphysical level. I say, stop looking at your competitors. Stop being a comparator. Stop looking at what they're doing. Mind your business and business your mind. I want to say that again. Mind your business and business your mind. That means you've got tunnel vision and you're only focused on the outcome. Even if it's cancer, if it's diabetes, never mind what they said about cancer and diabetes. You've got to create the miracle. You are the miracle, but you got to be singing the right tone. So do, re, mi, in the scale, do, re, mi means miracle. You've got to create the miracle. You got to tell yourselves what you would like. Tell yourselves, all the parts of you, what it is that you like. Now your immune system begins to react different. Your blood flows different. Everything, the universe begins to conspire with you to move you towards the goal that you've set up, because you are the captain. You're the captain of the ship. Now check it out.
You have dominion over your attention.
Imagine you get on the ship. You get on the ship and you say, hey, now hear this. Now hear this. I'm your captain. Doesn't look good. There's giant, saber-tooth sharks out there. There's a squid that's going to tear the mast off the boat. People have died. We're going through the Bermuda Triangle. So you start thinking all that, and guess what? The ship crashes or it sinks. But if you say, and you speak with a certain voice, now hear this, now hear this. This is your captain speaking. We're on a mission. We're going to go where no one has gone before. And this is our mission. This is our goal, no matter what.
You got to give Star Trek vibe.
You say you got to give yourself the right morale.
Dr. B, you're kicking a lot, man. Listen, we're going to have you back on.
Woo!
I want you to tell people where they can find you. And also, what is this thing happening? God Power. You're having a blueprint for God Power 2. Okay, for God Power 2. I teamed up with Billy Carson, who's an amazing guy who, you're friends with too. And we've put together this program called Blueprint for God Power. We did it on the 7th of January
And it was 11 hours of information that you could use, actual techniques and tools that you could use to transform your life right now. It wasn't like some airy fairy stuff, but it was the largest event of its kind ever done, ever. No, it was like 10,000 people, who have been to this class. Lives have actually changed by taking it. So now we're doing God Power 2, which is the next level, we're taking a quantum leap from the first one. And we're going to be giving you the actual tools that do work. So there'll be exercises. There'll be certain sacred geometry that you can do with your body that shifts you very quickly. So that's happening. And it's really amazing.
So elevation.com is your website.
Elevationtime.com is my
Elevation
website.
Time. It's elevation.
Elevation. Yes, Elevation Time, So that's my website. And you'll see the event. Like if you go there now, you could still take.
Would they be able to see your herbal products there?
Yes, the herbal products are there. There's classes, there's workshops. You could go to college right on my website. Right. I have bundles of classes that you can get that are on special right now throughout the summer. I have 14 classes that I did in the last 2 years. Amazing stuff that you can use. So I like giving people things that they can actually use. Instead of just kind of like it's airy fairy and it sounds good, but they're actual things. And God Power just takes all that to another level. So this blueprint for God Power. And check out the products. And even the elevated total body program, which is now the #1 parasite cleanse package on the planet. I didn't even know that. I
use it I use it twice a year. So I got to get some more right now, young man.
I'll send you a package. Yeah. But it's interesting, when because they're having this, what's it called now? It's the Forbidden Conscious Awards. And what was interesting, there's thousands of people were going for each category. And Billy Carson called me and says, "Man, Dr. B, do you know that you've been selected as the top 3?" I said, "What do you mean?" He says, "On the planet." I said, "What are you talking about?" He said, "There was thousands of people in health and wellness. Somehow you're right in the top 3. So people, have voted." And I'm like, wow, maybe, I'll win. And I started looking through the categories. I said, wait a minute, is that Michael B right there? They're like, yeah, he's been nominated too. So we're both nominated for an award. So
we'll know later on in the month.
We'll know later on. We'll go hang out down in Miami if they let us, But it's interesting
the thing about this is, and we gotta give this little disclaimer. Both you and I, we don't work for awards. It's nice to be honored, appreciated, loved, and supported, but we work because we're called into the work that we do. And we, at this stage of our development, and I know I'm speaking for you, we don't have a choice. We live a choiceless life of service to uplift humanity, liberate humanity from superstitious thought, bad habits, that they may flourish and fly and activate their greatest destiny. And you've been doing a good job, man. I had to have you on Take Back Your Mind. So God bless you, brother. Doctah B Sirius.
Yes.
Chapter 2 Sirius.
So thank you. And I'll see you soon. And let's keep doing the good work, man. You're doing an amazing job. And that is the thing. That should be the goal, taking back our minds, because we had it when we were born. Right. And then we slowly let it go away. But we can allow our minds to come back to ourselves if we choose. But
it's been imprinted, but now we can take that imprint out and put the imprint of the spirit there.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. Thank you very much, man. Travel light.
I do.
Yes.
Peace.
Take care. Peace.
Again, dynamic blessings to you. Every episode has a brief meditation. As you notice, if you followed my past episodes, pretty much all of my guests will speak to the power of meditation. Meditation is a foundational piece in spiritual growth, development, and unfoldment. It assists in cleansing the psyche, cleansing the subconscious mind, cleansing the surface mind, and it makes you a candidate for insight and revelation into transcendent knowledge that becomes imminent, wisdom, transformational knowledge, wisdom, intelligence, love. You become more available. In terms of taking back your mind, you don't want your mind to be impressed by the world, nor are you seeking to have a relationship with the world as your primary relationship. You're seeking to have a primary relationship with your higher self, or the Christ within, or the Buddha within, or the presence within. That's your primary relationship. So you're not conditioned by the world. You become conditioned by your insights and revelations into the eternal, the presence, the power, the love that's within you. So you meditate to become free and to activate your potential. Let's have a few moments of stillness and silence together. The pillars: stillness, silence, solitude. Stillness, silence, sacred solitude. Be still every day. Stop your running around, your busyness. Become silent. And your sacred fortress of solitude will emerge. You'll feel embraced, cradled by a presence, the presence of life, of God, of love. Close your outer eye, both of them. Turn within. Turn your attention away from the world of effects and circumstances. And embrace a powerful intention. Your intention is to be free and awake. Free from the gravity of the status quo and awake to your greatest destiny of the next great vision and version of your real self. That's our intention. Our attention is embracing our intention and our sacred breath, which is keeping us present. Be still and know. We sit as if someone were about to tell us something very important. So our entire being is available to the eternal broadcast of let there be light and love and beauty everywhere. And always, we sit as if this is the very first time. Because it is. If the mind wanders, just become aware that it's wandering. Bring it back to your intention and your breath and begin again. Another moment of stillness, silence, sacred solitude. Be still and know that I am God in the midst of you. I am pure source in the midst of you. I am the source of all creation in the midst of you. This is what we're listening with, and this is what we're listening for. We give thanks for these precious moments, and we allow these moments to carry us throughout our entire day and evening. And so it is. And so we shall let it be. Now, so be it. Have a bright and beautiful day. Take back your mind. It's precious. As always, presently, we have 2 sponsors to Take Back Your Mind podcast. One is Doctah Zen. The sponsor is Neutralize. Doctah Zen is an aspect of Neutralize. We have superfood greens, and we have the vitamin D3, K2. The immune system is very important, and the energy circuits of your body are very important to be able to carry more cosmic energy. So you want to have your spiritual practice that keeps you in homeostasis, not acidic, but your pH balance is wonderful. And then you want to have right supplementation to assist in that process. Go to Neutralize.com, tap on Doctah Zen, and get your bundle. The other sponsor is always the Agape International Spiritual Center, now going into its 37th year. Go to agapelive.com. There you'll find a plethora of ways to tap into the community. You can tap into it every Sunday for our Way of Meditation service. Our second service of the day is at 8:30 a.m. for meditation, 9 o'clock a.m. for the Worship Celebration Fellowship service. The third service, of course, is 11 a.m. meditation, 11:30 fellowship service. Go to the website, agapelive.com. There are daily meditations, daily prayer times. So much is happening in this community. Those are our 2 sponsors that we give thanks for. Have a bright day. Your time is very valuable, so I want to thank you for lending us your ear and participating in taking back your mind. If you want to submit a question for the question of the week, please submit it to podcast@michaelbeckwith.com. If you've enjoyed what you've heard today, please submit a review and let us know your thoughts. Stay on top of current episodes by subscribing to the podcast so that you'll receive alerts and not miss one single episode. And feel free to share this podcast with all of your friends and family. And until we meet again, take back your mind, and you will take back your life. Peace and blessings.
Come still and listen.